In 1959, at Street's Grocery in Whitefish, Montana's special spice was born. Alpine Touch. It's the taste you grew up with, well seasoned through the test of time. As the tradition carries from one Montana generation to the next. From its humble beginnings to a trusted brand, here's to the next 60 years. Alpine Touch. Montana's special spice since 1959.
Sure, but you did the math for us last week, 115 minutes without a score. You got it up to almost 165 minutes. So just your reaction to that, this day in college football, that seems pretty unprecedented.
Well, that's the way I would say it. So, I'll say it for you, so it doesn't have to be a quote from you. But, you know, we didn't want to lose that shutout there in the fourth quarter. But in current time, modern day college football, that's a lot of quarters, a lot of drives, and a lot of minutes without a defense giving up a point. That's phenomenal. I don't know. It'd be interesting to do a study on that. Certainly it's not the time of year for me to look at that. Maybe, I don't know what you guys do all day. Maybe you look at that. But that in modern day college football, current time, with the rules where they are, where tackling's illegal and all the other stuff, it's phenomenal, those number of minutes.
Coach, first few offensive series, it seemed like Cam and the unit as a whole were kind of getting in the rhythm and then kind of settled into things as the first half went on. What do you feel like were the biggest adjustments, and how do you feel like they kind of adjusted to the game as it went?
Cal Poly didn't really give us anything new, so there shouldn't have been a whole lot of adjusting to be done. I just didn't think we were sharp, and I didn't think we executed well enough, and I wouldn't point to any individual certainly on that. I might, point at the head coach and say, I got to figure out why we weren't sharper the first little bit in there. So we just need to play better.
Building this great resume of shutting out opponents, I know you're physically doing it, but how much of this is mental with the mindset of the defense?
I think football is played by tough people, and you have to be both mentally and physically tough to be successful in the game, and I think we have a tough football team.
Just for Justin, just being a part of this defense that has allowed, that went 165 minutes without allowing points, what was that like, and what was clicking for you guys through 3 games now to start the season?
We were just playing the football our coaches teach us to play every day in practice. It was disappointing that fourth quarter when they scored, for sure. We were all disappointed, but we're just gonna buckle down and get ready for next week.
And on that pick 6 play, you dropping back in coverage, you guys sending some other guys. What were you seeing on that play? What worked, and what was that feeling like? Obviously, you guys taking the momentum just full bore at that point.
It was a great call by Coach Bear, and it was a cool feeling. I don't know how to describe it. I haven't scored in college football before, so it was nice to get a score like that. You really have to experience it to know the feeling.
Sammy, they were bringing pressure early, but the touchdown, Cam took a hit, threw it right to you. What did you see on that play? And you must have known when the pressure was coming, you're going to have daylight to run to.
I knew they were playing man, and remember I kind of pointed it out before the play that they were playing man. I knew he was going to go with Sos, so I knew I had to win and just had to execute.
Scoring a touchdown right there in front of the south end zone, got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, it does feel good scoring in front of the north end.
Coach, conventional wisdom is that when you bring the kind of pressure you guys do, that leaves some sort of vulnerability to the defense. You guys don't seem to have any. Even when Cal Poly was dialing up screen plays, blowing them up, getting them to a 6-yard gain or whatever. Why? How are you guys able to do this, not really have much vulnerability when you bring pressure?
Yeah, I didn't think we played that well enough. They gave us a little more and a couple different looks in the screen game, which, there are better ways to play it probably than we did. I thought that our effort level probably carried us through some calls that weren't maybe good for the defense, and our effort level and or chasing the football got us out of some potential bad plays. So, our guys, they challenge. They get challenged, as Belky said. They get challenged every day during the week, and then they go challenge the guys in the other color jersey on Saturdays.
This is for either one of the players. As Coach said, this is the best start you've had on the season in a while. First Big Sky Conference win and a homecoming win. So just how does that feel?
It feels good. It feels good to start the season 3-0 and get a win after an open date. It just feels good, but it also feels good to know that there's things we got to work on and get in there and prepare for the next one.
Coach, if there was one phase today that maybe was most impressive, is the special teams scoring one on the kickoff return, punt block, and also one of the better punting displays I've seen in a long time. I know that's a big deal for you, that phase of the game, and you just speak to how important that was for the win today.
Yeah, the kicking game kind of carried the day for us. It was really good. It's unfortunate we gave up the fake punt, and it was something that we actually practiced the play that they ran this week, believe it or not. So beyond that, it was a pretty dominating day, and the coverage teams were terrific. The return game was terrific. Scoring twice was huge in terms of the outcome of the game. Both those plays, the block punt and the kick return for the touchdown, we felt like those were opportunities that might transpire if the game played out the way we thought it would, and it's kind of nice once in a while to have the crystal ball.
And then when you have a punter that can flip the field the way that Ryan can, does that ever translate into how you would call a game or your coaches would call a game either direction?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. There's so many things that go into it. It's not necessarily going to change our play call on either offense or defense, but it may change, if we're going for it or some different things when, it's a tight game. In a game like that where it's not real tight, probably not, but you get into a low-scoring battle, you play the field position game a little bit, and it's sure nice to have a punter and a punt coverage unit that can flip the field for you.
This is for anyone. So you've talked before about the role of the crowd and specifically the student section and hyping up the team. So how do you think this large homecoming crowd influenced your gameplay? How did it influence the atmosphere on the sideline?
For defense, it was every third down. It was nice hearing the crowd get into it. I know it definitely caused trouble with the O-line getting off the ball. The quarterback was probably a little frazzled or whatever. But I really enjoy having that student section full, hearing them yell and scream on third downs.
Sammy, Coach kind of alluded to it, but what does it say about this team when you can win with that large of a margin, but still not really be satisfied with how you play?
I think it's a good sign. I think it means we're headed in the right direction. But I think it just speaks to the guys we got in the locker room, where it comes from coach, and he's going to be on us, but it doesn't really have to come from him. We know firsthand what we got to do and what our standard is, and we didn't rise up to that.
Justin, like Coach said, they were playing a lot of screen game on offense. How does that affect you as a defensive lineman, knowing that you have to keep your motor going, might have to turn around and chase the play when they throw behind you just all game?
Well, it definitely tires you out more, but since we have so many good players on the defensive line, knowing that you have 2 or 3 deep that can do the job just as well as you can it's very very satisfying, very good to know.
Coach, I want to keep this light, but the pressing question I have is the sideline penalty. Who was it on, and is it his fault, or is it the kickback coach?
Oh, we were just subbing.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, they bumped the guys that were substituting in. we had 2 linebackers going in the game. We were flopping out personnel, and they bumped into the referee. Then they were 7 in. That's what it was.
Bobby, specifically the block punt, Levi Janicaro's a guy that moved to the defensive side of the ball. Now it seems like he's standing out on special teams. I know you love when guys like that sort of earn their way. So you just talk about that play.
Well, that's a big play. I saw him score it, and I didn't know he blocked it. I said, "All right, who blocked it?" He said, "I did both." So that's a big time play when you block it and scoop it up and score it. So I don't know if we got I'd have to see the replay. I don't know if we got our hand on one in the first half, but their punter struggled a bit with the pressure, and our guys, they had a pretty good understanding of their protection, and they executed the rush pretty well. And obviously Levi had the big play.
If you had to pick just one thing you're most proud of with how this defense is playing, what would that be?
Oh, I think it's temperament and effort level. When they're after it. When the ball gets kicked off, they're after the guys in the other colored jersey, and I appreciate guys that love to play.
Now we can talk about the showdown, right? Next weekend, Eastern Washington, ESPN2. What do you think?
Is that who we play? I never look ahead.
On that note, though, I mean,
so that's who we have.
That's who you play. Just on that note, though, I know you want to enjoy this one. So, how important is that to just, now when it is time to move on to the next, we'll move on to the next.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the conference schedule. We have 1 game per week, and you get to play that one. They all count the same. So, anytime you win, including today, it counts the same as the next week or the next week or the next week. So, it's good to be 1-0. We're excited about beating Cal Poly and being at 1-0 in first place in the conference.
Coach, over here, just wondering from a defensive.
I could see it.
There's a lot of us. I don't know. Sorry, but just wondering from a defensive perspective. Obviously, you love when guys play with an edge, and there's a lot of stuff kind of after the whistle that goes on, and when guys are kind of getting up off piles. How do you kind of have your team balance the edge and kind of the the attitude you want them to play with without drawing flags and penalties?
Honestly, I don't know, because I think we got a couple today. So we want to be edgy. Head coach is edgy. Coaching staff's edgy. Players are edgy. That's what we want. We're pretty nice guys after the dust settles. We don't want to be too nice out there.
Anybody else?
Blackfoot Communications is committed to supporting Bozeman businesses. From intelligent network solutions like SD-WAN to fast and reliable fiber-based services, Blackfoot delivers innovative ways for your business to succeed. Blackfoot Communications. Connect to more.
Coach, can you just talk about the variety of defensive fronts they show you, how much that maybe keeps you off balance, and the way they can bring pressure? What was it like seeing it in person?
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive, and I thought that coming in. I mean, I saw that on film, and I credit them because some of the things I talked about when I was asked about it during the week is it's impressive how multiple and chaotic they can kind of make it feel with it still seeming simple for them. And that's a tribute to both the coaches and the players to be able to get that done. So what seems simple for them can look tough on opposing offenses, and they're good at it.
Even when Montana starts relatively slow, like I think they punted on their first 3 offensive possessions, they can still manufacture points. So how much momentum does that create when they can get defensive touchdowns, special teams touchdowns?
Yeah, no question. And I'm, like I said, and even, and I'm a positive thinker, so on our side, so I don't consider as much starting slow as we started fast on defense. I mean, that's how I look at it, and I think our guys did a good job all day on defense. I know what the scoreboard ended up saying, but there were a lot of, special team situations we got to clean up, and that's a credit to those guys, and, and something we have to fix. But, yeah, even with that, of course, they can score in a lot of different ways, and they've always been that way. I can go back to Marcus Mariota, and, I have nightmares of him returning punts, and, and they've always been good at dialing up certain blocks. So it's not anything that's uncommon. You just have to be that much more, on point, with both what you're doing offensively, taking care of the football, because they can turn it into 6 like they did, and then definitely what you're doing on special teams as well.
We talked about your guys' offensive transition. We talked a lot on the show earlier this week about the line play. how big of a challenge is that specifically for your offensive line when Montana does throw such a variety of fronts and pressures at you?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt it's tough, but we try and give our guys enough pressures, with some of what we do. I know the fronts might be a little bit different, but, throughout fall camp. So it just takes time, and there's nothing like game experience, especially game experience at Griz Stadium. I mean, that's just different game experience than anything you can get, especially when you're talking offensive football, because offensive football here is just, it's different. It's you have to adjust certain things cadence-wise, but I was really pleased with our guys for first time. I mean, no one, I don't think, on our team had played in this stadium. I don't feel like we had a bunch of false starts. I felt like we handled things clean, and that's with, really young quarterbacks. I mean, one who's young to his playing days, then when he was injured, a true freshman. So I know those are tough situations, to be in, even for veteran offenses. So those were things that were really positive to me about how our O-line handled things. I can't remember any. Maybe we had one, but sometimes, you come in here and you end up with 5 or 6. I've seen it. We handled ourselves mentally that way, and it just takes work when you're going from triple option to spread. You're right. I mean, those guys, just not to any of their fault. You need reps, and there's nothing like game reps.
You guys did have the most yards that they've given up this year. I mean, what was your game plan coming in to try to take the sting out of their defense, maybe get their linebackers running backwards a little bit?
We just, Coach Edwards and the offensive staff did a really good job of putting together a plan that we felt like could, where we could get the ball out of the QB's hand, and sometimes we didn't. Early on we took a couple sacks, but the mindset was get it out of his hand, but also when shots down the field presented themselves, put it in spots where our guys had a chance to go make plays. Our guys competed in those ways. I mean, I saw what the secondary did against UW, and I saw it, and I thought our guys did a really good job competing for those 50-50 balls and, coming down. Unfortunately, we just weren't as good as we needed to be in the red zone, especially early, just in general. And then obviously giving up. I mean, you end up, turning it over and giving it up a couple special teams touchdowns. It hurts because you know how much better your defense played, and in some ways, how much your offense was actually able to move the ball in a tough environment. We just got to get over the hump finishing in the red zone.
You alluded to it already, but the defense overall, I mean, the whole day played really well.
It did.
In general, what are the things that you saw out of this offense that you felt like you might be able to match up with defensively?
We just felt like we were going to make them do everything we can to make them earn everything. And that was the biggest thing that we saw, that if we could make them earn everything and we could get it to, 8th play of the drive, 9th play of the drive, 10th play of the drive, that we were going to have a shot then to maybe get a sack or get something. But if it was explosive, a couple weeks ago we ended up, and even last week to some extent in the first half, some explosives that got the best of us. Instead, those explosives ended up happening on special teams, not against our defense. So the mindset, as much as anything, was to change it up enough, do a great job of line and pre-snap, which we improved a lot on from the week before, just making sure our alignment was sound, and at the end of the day, be aggressive but still make them earn it. So I'm not saying bend but don't break, but and similar, Montana, I think, always does a good job of that. They're aggressive in their defensive, what they do defensively, but you still watch them on film, they don't just give up cheapies or freebies. So it's and that was our mindset coming in against them.
We saw this evolution of offense with the implementation of the spread pretty much across the country. It seems like teams are trying to run sort of spread-style defenses now, though, with a bunch of athletes on the field. It looks like you guys are doing similar to that. So, I mean, what do you think of that evolution as an offensive mind like you are?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you have to be able to match what's going on. I mean, you have to be able to get athletes on the field, and we do. Against certain personnels, we try to get into some of our packages that, like you're saying, with with more DBs or, another linebacker on the field, and taking out a D lineman, whatever that might be. But it makes sense. It's very similar to basketball, right? I mean, if all of a sudden your teams are all of a sudden playing 4 guards and doing that, you're not going to put 2 centers out there. You got to match those 4 guards, or else you're going to get toasted. So it's the same idea. You have to be able to match some of the athletes with athletes when they go to certain personnels.
Conventional wisdom is that if a team blitzes all the time, that opens up a weakness. Montana doesn't seem to have much of a weakness when they do bring pressure. Why is that?
you know, I just think, like I said, I think they rally. I think they get off blocks well. Like a couple times, you know, we called a lot of screens. I'm sure you saw that. I mean, it was a decent amount, whether it looked like a screen to the average eye or not. We had some tunnel screens and some different things like that. But what they do is a lot of them on paper are touchdowns. I mean, seriously, when you're bringing pressure, you hat on a hat. I mean, in the napkin down at the bar, I can draw it up and it's a touchdown against that blitz. You know, but if they have the ability to get off that block or retrace it D-line because they play with such attitude and effort, then it only becomes like an 8 or 10 yard gain. When on paper, it should work out hat on a hat, boom, he's hitting it, you know, for a touchdown. So I give them credit when they're in those one-on-one moments, like you said, when you catch them, because, you know, what are weaknesses against our blitz? I mean, it's the one-on-one situations in space, you know, DBs versus receivers, or it's, you know, defending a screen, you know, and they're pressure and you catch them at the right time. And by doing that, you have to be able to defeat and win those one-on-one situations as a defensive player, and that's why they're able to stop some of those things that should be advantageous on paper.
How big a deal is it when your defense plays well as they do make stops inside the Montana's own red zone, and yet they roll a punter out there who's banging at 50, 60 yards, and now you're starting inside your own red zone anyways, because you're going to get a field position advantage and don't really. Yeah,
it's huge. I mean, that's why it's such a big part of the game. And Coach Hauck's always done an amazing job with his special teams, and it shows up. You know, it's not by accident. You know, and I mean, obviously there's a coaching aspect to what they're doing. There's no doubt about it. You know, and you know the return they hit was executed extremely well. You know, the block. You know, unfortunately, I look at that as you know, we got a feel for what they were doing because they were continuing to pressure us. We didn't execute like we needed to on that one, but they still have to have then the guys who understand the scheme too, and that's coaching, and they're able to teach those guys and get those guys. But in terms of just a flat-out punter, I can coach our punters just as well as another punter. But at the end of the day, it's like you know, I can't coach a guy to throw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball if he can't. You know, so when you have a punter like that, yeah, it's a weapon. And you know, but that's me, you know, developing in the weight room. But it's, you know, it's a lot of a great job in recruiting and development. But that's also to their credit. You know, I can't just say, well, they have a good player. Well, yeah, but they didn't. That guy didn't just land in their lap. They did a great job recruiting him, finding him, developing him. And now he's helping them win games. So credit to them for that.
Your first Big Sky game since 2016, so what'd you think?
Oh, I had a blast. What better place to be, right? You know, I mean, it was, you know, just to be on the road in Griz has so many, you know, tough memories, but also a few fond, and they're all fond though. I mean that, you know, as much as they sting, it's just, you just have a lot of respect for coming in here and playing. So I just, you know, would have loved to see him, but I told our guys to hold our heads up high. I know what the score ended up being, and I know all that, but our guys fought on the road really well. You know, we got to look at 4 or 5 plays, and I know it's like that in every football game, but this was probably extremely that way, more so than other football games. So I was, you know, so yeah, to come back into this Big Sky Stadium was awesome. It was awesome. Stings, you know, to not win, never like that, never have, and we'll be fighting back next week against another really good opponent.
On Montana's 2 special teams touchdowns, did you notice any specific breakdowns on your guys' play?
Yeah, I did. On both of them. I did. And I'll confirm it on film, but I know exactly. And it's unfortunate because, yeah, one of them, you know, he's a great returner, but yeah, it's just defending the field return, which, yeah, we got ourselves out of position a little on that. But I got to do a better job of making sure I hammer it in their head, and, you know, whatever that is. And the other one, they hadn't shown as much A-gap pressure, you know, on punt coming into it. If you were to study, even back to 2019 film, hadn't showed as much. So, but off a bye week, you never know. Teams start, you know, putting in a few more things and, you know, changing it up, and they, you know, probably saw something in us. But we still, again, on the napkin, that one's protected. But now we just gotta get the technique better, and, you know, punt's tough too at this stadium because you're still going off a silent count. So if you're late at all off the ball and they beat you inside, you can see it, and you want to come after one. It can be tricky. You know, they blocked one against Portland State, almost another last spring, and you can see them, especially in this stadium. You know, and that stadium wasn't even full in that last spring, I don't think, in that game. But I can remember they had a block against Portland State when I was studying the film. Well, not if the DN drops in there. I mean, and I know that's not a smart aleck remark. It's, we had seen that look and we had gone over the look, but you can go over it all you want. There's nothing like game reps. And until you're in those game reps, DN's dropping. I've seen him get the best of QBs. You've seen it get Kurt Warner in the Super Bowl. It's just, that's just one of those things where you need those reps. And in fairness, same type of deal won us the San Diego game, or sealed the San Diego game. Our DN dropped and returned pick six, so it can be tough on a QB, that way. But he'll look at it, learn from it, and we'll all learn from it and go forward. So yeah, once the DN drops into that zone, we should have been coming off that.
Blackfoot Communications is committed to supporting Bozeman businesses. From intelligent network solutions like SD-WAN to fast and reliable fiber-based services, Blackfoot delivers innovative ways for your business to succeed. Blackfoot Communications. Connect to more.